Let us go on to the next very busy slide. Look at this. Whew. Look at this. So, megacities. Now, I was talking about games that weren't completed earlier, and I was talking about civilization. And the first time I came across the idea of megacities was on probably Civilization 2, maybe Civilization 3. I can't quite remember where they had the, I think they were called ecologies, which was like cities that had domes over the top so that the pollution all gets, air conditioned and stuff. And like these ideas of megacities once upon a time was like, wow, can you imagine those? Well, I can now. I can imagine them. They'll be monstrous. There'll be places which will be completely and utterly monstrous. And as you see, this slide is bloody monstrous. Look how big it is. Look how big. So we've got a lot to go for on this. And there's a lot of points. And so, listen, I really hope that you're understanding why I'm doing this and why this is really important. Here we have their version of the future written down and visually given to us. And they say this, visual is really important. Have something to look at, have something to see. Don't coerce them. Let them see. Well, we got to understand what they see for our future, because this is them in control. And if you've seen the You'll Own Nothing and Be Happy, like the article that came from You'll Own Nothing and Be Happy originally, that was written up by a woman who basically had been trained on these sort of ideas of megacities and tried to sell it to people as, oh, look what the future will be like. You won't even own your house, or you'll sleep somewhere and then someone else will sleep there when you finish sleeping there, and you won't own your kitchen and you won't own your living room. You'll just exist, blah, blah, blah. Look how wonderful the world is. And it sounds like a nightmare to the majority of us. Megacity sounds like the nightmares. I mean, I was in Santiago recently. Santiago's like 8 million people, I think. So it's almost half of the population of Chile is all in one city, and it's a hellhole. There's shacks up all over the place, plastic and cardboard shacks. If you video there, you'll get attacked by homeless people who are really sensitive about the fact that they've got a terrible life. All of their water supply is dirty. Everything about it is a place that I would not want to live in. And this is what they've got to sell us. They've got to sell us this. They've got to get us out of the rural areas and stick us in the urban. And this is the ultimate urban. There is a difference between urban, as we'll see in this, there's a difference between urban and megacities. Because if you live in an urban area, like a built-up area, like for instance, my hometown of Cardiff has a population of 400,000, and it's a really nice sort of like balance of everything. That's not what they want. Massive buildings where everybody lives in 100-story tower blocks, and their life are manipulated and controlled from morning, noon, and night, year after year, and they no longer live like humans lived before. And it's a way of being able to create people into slaves and brainwash people easier if they're constantly stuck in this environment. It's also a way to completely and utterly obliterate humaneness out of humanity. So, inclusive growth. This is one thing they try and sell, hey, we're going to grow these megacities and we want to be inclusive. You want to be inclusive. You want to force people into megacities. And like I said earlier, they want you to believe that all of the land's built on, and it's just not so. They want you to do that so they don't have to supply you resources. They don't have to put in things like gas lines or water mains or things like that into areas that are more rural. They don't want to go through all of that. No, they want you to be included within their massive cities. And basically these cities, to most people, they seem like jails, massive jails. How do we plan it? So they don't care whether or not you want it. It's how do we plan it? how do we face a complexity or catastrophe? That's a really interesting way. Catastrophe. So what happens with a catastrophe? Well, you can imagine if you had a megacity and a nuclear bomb went off there. That's not just, it's not just 100,000 people killed, 200,000. It's millions of people killed. If you have a massive hurricane or a tsunami in a megacity, you're not talking about just one or two people killed. You're talking mass destruction on a scale unrecognizable. But they don't want you to think about that. How do we face it? They're not going to tell you. So they go through some selections, and this is quite hard to go through. So understanding where to be on this and which order to take it in. Well, we'll see. So, livability. So, is it for all? And the answer is, of course, no, but they want to make it for all. So it's not going to be for all. And, what they say in that article about you'll own nothing and be happy is that we'll all live in these big cities and live this life, but it won't be for everybody. Other people will live a unhappier life outside these mega cities. These people, they say some strange thing like, how is happy? Not what is happiness. Where do you find how is happy? How do we do it to make it happy? I don't even know what they're saying. How is happy? What they mean by that, I do not know. So homogeneity or diversity. Now, for those people like myself who don't necessarily automatically understand what homogeneity means, the quality of state of being all the same or all of the same kind. So everybody, homogeneous means everybody's the same. Oh, wait a minute, let me just mute that. So that states that everybody is the same. What have we got there? Okay, so it's not going to ding by there. So homogeneous basically means, is everybody the same? How much is the same? So are they saying everybody's the same, or do we have diversity? And the answer, of course, is going to be the same, because you have to have it. If you're in the countryside and you live in a rural area, people are very diverse and people are very different. And when you go to a place where everybody mixes and they're from slightly urban areas and slightly country, you get like a strange mix of people. And it's really interesting, If you go to a city, everybody's got their head down, nobody communicates the same, everybody keeps in line, that's what they mean, really. That's what they're looking for, really. People staying in line. What are the implications of moving from rural areas? That's a really interesting one, because we've seen it in China, haven't we? We've seen they're like, oh, we're going to offer you this place to live in the city, and we're going to force you by beating your legs if you don't, or arresting you and taking you to the city. We're going to take you out of the countryside and we're going to stick you in the city. And we've seen this with these Chinese mega cities that are already being already been built, already been implemented, and already happening. And people, you suddenly got these country bumpkins who have to live this heartless, horrible city life. And what's the next thing you see? You see people working in factories for really extremely long times, throwing them having to fit nets underneath because people were throwing themselves off buildings because they were so unhappy. That's what they mean. What are the implications of moving from a rural area? Complete sadness, because you don't have the beauty around, you don't have the butterflies, you don't have the wonderful things. Instead, you have real harsh living. And that's what they want to force you into, really. They want to force you into that sort of thing. So up here, let me see. Here, we're going to here. I think we're gonna we're gonna work across the top, and then we're gonna go back around. So migration, so that fits in. What are the implications of moving from a rural area? Migration, so they want to force people, they want people to migrate to the cities. So there's no opportunities out here in the country, and there's no work, so we're going to have to go, and we're forced to move into the city, forced to move into this jail, and Bill Gates will own all the farmland outside, and they'll get to be far away from you schmucks who are working for them to create some sort of faux wealth, because no longer is wealth something that is the same as it was before, is it? When they've created these megacities, people don't have anything and they'll be happy. It's not true. They won't have anything and they'll throw themselves off buildings. So prepare for that. And it's a kind of if you look back at 2000 AD, which was a British magazine comic book back in the day that had like different types of futuristic and some like fantasy stories within them. One of them was Judge Dredd, and of course Judge Dredd was in Megacity 1. He was it was the American, one of the American, after the nuclear wars that meant most of the land, it wasn't livable. People were stuck in these megacities. This has been played out and gamed for years and years, but people, these very clever people in 1977 who created Judge Dredd and Megacity 1, I think it was 1977 that Judge Dredd was first created, they saw this coming a mile off. They saw what they were doing, and they saw the horrors that it would mean. And what it would mean would be a lot of people who were depressed all the time. It was psychotic. People stuck together. People turn psychotic. That is a fact. So when they talk about megacities, they say populations above 8 million, 10 million people. So I was saying Santiago is already 8 million. London is already something like 10 million. I think Paris is something like 10 million. You know, these cities already exist, but they want this to even be more smaller, bigger, higher up. So, you know, they get to have more area outside that doesn't include us schmucks, because that's what they want. So change in action. This is a change. This is a massive change. This is, we are changing so many different things about how we live our lives when we go from having a choice between cities, slightly urban areas and rural areas, when we have a choice between three things, to then be shoved into what are mega cities is going to be a complete difference, and they know this. So innovation dash creativity. So innovation is a catalyst for creativity, I think they're saying here, and maybe vice versa. But they need innovation and creativity because they need to trick you into this in the first place, and they need to make it sustainable. And that is going to take new technologies, new ideas. And the idea of owning nothing and being happy is one of those innovations, a creative innovation that is a catalyst for this creation of the megacities, or at least some sort of making people believe that it can exist, that making people that believe it can be workable. Poverty, a part of the change in action is poverty. Inequality is bigger, or inequity. That's a different thing to inequality, of course. Inequity is bigger, and that's a really interesting thing because they already see this. You know, people in megacities, there will be people who are really rich who will live in very closed off sort of like areas that poor people can't go into. Just like in Santiago, when I walk around the streets of there, walking through the rich area, and it's like, oh, this is very nice. And then you walk a little bit further on, and it's a fucking shithole. It's like tramps spitting at you, you know. This is what the future looks like in a megacity. And a megacity, the total population above 10 million. So that means a small megacity would be 10 million, a big megacity would be 20 million, 25 million, eventually more, if they can fit them, if they can get them all out of the country and squash them into these mega cities. So opportunities. Now this is interesting, and I think this. Let me just make sure that I'm going the right way. Opportunities, employment, sharing economy. Yeah. So, opportunities, and they only see the only opportunity they can come up with is employment. That's it. Not creative arts, not all of the rest of the things that could potentially come up as opportunities. Just employment. What employment? What are they going to be employed as? Because they need to be employed. They need to be doing something. These little worker ants need to be doing something. You know, they're spitting on you as they're saying this. Sharing economy, and again, this is like you'll own nothing and be happy. You'll not have a house. You'll sleep, and someone else will be using your living room and your bed while space while you're in work. That sounds fucking horrific to most people. We build our lives so that we can have our comforts, and if we don't have those everyday comforts, we get psychological issues from that, and that's what megacities will bring, and that's what they know. They know this fully well. So the best sharing economy, that's what, the sharing economy is dystopian, is a dystopian idea anyway. It sounds nice because it's got the word sharing in, but that's not so. Just like stakeholder capitalism. Oh, you've got a stake, have I? No. Your stake is so tiny and small that the people upstairs, they have the real stake. Because they're your employers. You're the slaves. It's modern slavery. This all mega cities, all of sharing economy, modern slavery. That's all it is. Neo-slavery, I suppose you could call it. The best and the worst together. Again, inequity is bigger. The best and the worst together. So they're saying, oh yeah, look, you all live in this. So even the fairly rich people will have to trod through the mud being the poor people. And it'll be together though. You'll be together. The sharing economy will all be together. Aggregation again comes up in this. So how to make this happen through someone else. And they put the best aggregation, find new solutions. So introduce new technologies is the best. The worst, how to manage resources. Well, we can't manage resources. That's really hard, isn't it? Because we'll all argue and fight. That's historically what we do. We fight over resources. Well, they'll only give us limited resources. They'll only, they'll be in control of all of this in megacities. Everything that goes in will be carefully manipulated, and the numbers will be will be dictated by what they believe we need. Not by what you want, because you don't get want anymore in a mega city. You don't get to want things. You don't get any of that. So aggregation, find new solutions. Where we go? Yeah, find new solutions. Sorry, I'm just going through this. How to manage resources. Really interesting. Like I say, you don't get to manage, you don't get the resources if they're not available, and they'll only give you what's available. Efficient infrastructure. So meaning that, and this is what they say in one of the previous slides, old people get to work easier. So you got the efficient infrastructure, you got efficient underground mobility, so like underground railways or things like that allow you to be able to get all of these things around. And people, you see it now happening with Uber and the like, where you'll no longer leave your house to go and get your food. You'll have to order it and it'll be brought to you. That's more efficient. That's efficient infrastructure. Remember that. And one of the interesting things here is we'll get to the is how to keep identity. I find this really, 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 really interesting. How to keep identity of the person, like I say, in Santiago, you go there and you go to the richer areas, places that are built up, and everybody is basically the same, doing the same thing, shopping from the same limited number of shops, buying from the same number of restaurants. Soon you don't have an identity. You don't have anything that's different from the next person because we don't have, and what they really mean is how to keep individuality, but they don't want to say that out loud, I don't think. I don't think they like saying that. And up on the top there, before we go down to governance, can cities replace governments? I'm not sure if you can see this, but can cities replace governments in facing global challenges? So basically, instead of having city and countries, they will be able to, the city will be so big that it'll be big enough to have its own government, and that you have your own decisions on what you make in your cities, and your cities can be like their own little world, their own little infrastructures inside, and their own little balance of technologies and schmuck like stuff, resources that you're allowed to have, that the schmucks are allowed to have. So basically, I've heard of this within the Silicon Valley elite. Talked about having these mega cities, and they're like you'll have different laws in different cities and different governance in different cities, and it raises masses of questions. So let's go down to governance, because this is directly from there. Can cities replace governments in facing global challenge? Well, the governance of what is a city-state. So they're already saying it. They're not saying, can it take over the government? They're saying that's what it'll do. That's what we've mapped it out, and you don't have any other choice. So governance, jobs, housing. There's a couple other things that they haven't written on there. Look at those. I wonder what they are. But they're not. So housing, governance, jobs, housing, a city-state. Underneath it says by design or by evolution. Do we design the governance of these city-states to be a certain way so that people who like a certain thing will be attracted to a certain megacity? Or do we let it evolve? Does it come by evolution? And of course, no. At first it'll come by evolution, and soon they'll put in their diktats and control everything. So you won't have any type of evolution. It will all be by design. So that's a little bit obvious, but also very dystopian. What should be the power of mayor? So what's the power of a mayor in a megacity? That's a really powerful. I mean, we've already had the introduction of certain types of like mayor in the UK used to be something very different than what it is now, and it took on a very American identity to what mayor is now, and that will change again for a megacity. A mayor will have a different type of power, and will maybe be a more equivalent. If think about it, if the city-state is like its own nation, has its own rules, then the mayor becomes like its own president, like its own prime minister, and that is really, really worrying, in my opinion. Do we need megacities? So they build up the ideology around megacities, and then they ask, do we need them? I think it should be the other way around, isn't it? We should start off with, do we need megacities? And the answer is no. No, we don't need megacities, but they want to create these megacities because they're desperate to have shiny things. These guys are like ravens, they're like crows. They're desperate for shiny things. They're not as beautiful as crows and ravens, but they're desperate just in that way. In the analogy of a crow is that they're desperate for their shiny things. That's definitely what they want. We have technology. We have technology. Will it solve the problem? So we're going to come down to him, and then we're going to go back up again. But will it solve the problem? Probably not. And take care of young talents. That's interesting. they say take care of young talents. Again, they're looking to take certain people out and say, oh, look, you're a pioneering person who believes in our way of thinking, so you will be promoted in amongst that. But what it'll be like the counselors on the street, and we talked about this in one of the previous slides, what their idea of counselors is like. Most of them are detached from reality, but take care of young talents. I don't know what that means, because I think it's really teaching or brainwashing people to be a certain type of way, to a certain type of way. And I have missed one thing that we should go up. Think about a different map. That's a really interesting one as well. Think about a different map. So if you had read Judge Dredd and those type of things, you've got Megacity 1 on the one side, Megacity 2 on the other side. In the UK, you've got Britsit 1, and suddenly the map becomes, everything's clear apart from these big cities. Now, to create that in that scenario, they needed mass nuclear war all over the place so that you couldn't live anywhere else in the world and you had no options. Think about that. But think about how to make the map different. So here we go. Let's go back across this side. Over here, we looked at livability, but we got down to here, which is, what is the ultimate size of a city? Now, that's an extremely interesting question, and there's lots of things that will come up here. What's the ultimate size of a city? Consumer becomes producer. This is interesting as well. Consumer, the ultimate size of a city, if it's a megacity and the minority is 10 million, how big does a city get before its infrastructure starts to bow under the pressure, starts to break apart? It's a question they're asking and they don't know the answer. So I think what the answer is, they'll push the limits until the first iteration of their mega cities falls and crumbles a bit, and then they'll start again. So again, by design or by evolution, as they say, I think by design at the start, and then when things break apart, then a little bit of evolution followed by more design. Consumers become producers. Now, this is, again, interesting. Consumers become producers. Sharing. Again, they keep saying sharing, but what they mean, sharing, is that you don't own anything. You have to use other people's stuff. You have to use other people's homes. You have to use other people's stuff. You don't own anything. You don't, I mean, in their world, you don't even have a suitcase. You don't have clothes. You don't have those sort of things. How does this all work? Who knows? They haven't thought through those things. They'll create new problems that come from consumer being producer, and I think that is very interesting. New problems. They haven't ironed out nearly all of this. They're stepping in as they go, and you're going to have to accept that. New assets. Like I say, you won't own your house. You will sleep somewhere, and then someone else will be sleeping there when you're gone. So that will mean it will create a new kind of asset. And how will your stuff work? Well, it'll be new assets. Where will you keep them? That's yet to be worked out. So that's interesting. And coming off from what is the ultimate size of the city, we have what we got. Let me just make sure that we are covering every sort of area of this. Well, let's just go through it. Allow organic evolution. Okay, that's interesting. Allow organic evolution. Now, they haven't said that throughout it, and there's no such thing as organic in a manipulated, designed city, is there? So the organic evolution sounds like organic devolution, where some areas get worse and some areas get better, and they allow it to happen so that people have that sort of mix. So back up here, what's the ultimate size of the city? There's more to this. There's more here. Consider all urban systems. So, of course, you have to consider all urban systems. That's everything from transportation, as you see just above, but also food, clothing, housing, all these different. And they consider all urban systems, manipulate and change everything that we currently know. How do we develop trust? Already, like, if they want to force us to megacities, they got to develop trust. Well, in China, they haven't, have they? They just forced people into there and they beat them around the legs if they didn't go into it. And that's what our future looks like. Because a load of people who currently live in places that are really quite nice won't want to move to these urban hellscapes. They just won't want to do it. So how do we develop trust and then use that to manipulate people is what they mean. So how do we develop trust that we can use to manipulate people with? Technology enabling doing new and creative things. So technology enabling doing new and creative things. Again, it's a really badly worded part, and this, like as you see, look how busy this whole slide is. This is like should be 2 megacity slides, but they've really tried to fit it all in one. Technology enabling new and creative things. So that's like transport. If you look over, is air an option? That is something, and they've got this little flying saucer. That is something that goes under the transportation section, but it's very much technology enabling doing new and creative things. So enabling us, or the people, to do new and creative things. What we have in the future, we do not know. We do not know what the technologies are going to be in the future and what it means. And we don't know how humans are going to be in the future. It'll be really easy to get people into transhumanism when they're so sad and their life doesn't work in a megacity, I can tell you that. So their ideology, their eventual ideology, their ability to test on you and do this sort of thing that we've seen during COVID would be much easier once people are unhappy and need something to make them happy. And down here they got, technology enabling new and creative things, and they got the difference between urban and rural. But urban isn't something that they like to talk about. Rural, isn't something they like to talk about. They're just talking about the urban. So technology and creating new things, I don't even know why rural's on there. And okay, let me just make sure. How do we develop trust? Yes. How technology enabling, how can we use it, so technology, to create new opportunities out of the city? So that's the urban part. How can we use it, technology, to create new opportunities out of the city? Now, it's an afterthought. It's right down at the bottom. They put it right down at the bottom. Well, let's just put in, look, there'll still be some people who will not want to move into the city, however hard. So how do we create new opportunities out of the cities? And for that, again, their answer is a centralized network, which is the same as what you're in. That's what you're in a megacity, is a centralized network. Well, how do we create opportunities out of the city? By centralizing their network and put them into the megacity, whether they like it or not. That is the solution. What the solution is for the future is you have to accept you own nothing, and you have to accept that you have to be happy, which, of course, is dystopian as hell, worrying. But we're nearly through this now. We already did governance over there, so we're now on transportation and competitiveness, and the last little bit on the side, and we will be done with this slide, and we may be able to discuss it a bit. Who knows? Let's see. We'll see where we get. So transportation, a democratic approach. Congestion. So a democratic approach to transportation. I think that's just basically, again, saying you have to, it's another way. They didn't want to keep saying sharing all of the time, but a democratic approach. Oh, how would you like to travel around? How would you prefer? Oh, well, we have options over here, so you can have a ability to go on the underground or the monorail, or by these little these drone spaceship taxi things that we've created, or how about basically an Uber rideshare? You know, in Chile is a test bed of a lot of the fourth industrial revolution technology, and one of the things they do a lot here is share taxis, something I'm not used to at all elsewhere, is where you're getting a taxi, and as it's going through the streets, it'll be picking up people as they go. And it's called like ride sharing. It's a ride sharing aspect, but it feels very much like that's what poor people have to do, because we won't let you have the resources to be able to drive yourself. They will take things away. So democratic approach means everybody has to share and work together, and we'll come to this solution together by giving you a limited number of options, so you are forced into, funneled, filtered into the way we want you to do this. So you talk about congestion. It's a mega city. We've created a city that is completely and utterly, everybody's stuck in there and everybody's trapped in there. So it sounds awful to most people, and that's what a mega city will bring, is congestion. There's no way around it. But they just put it as a little side note over there. They got no options. What is the reality we can change with design thinking? So how can we change this congestion and all of the transportation needs with design thinking? You know, this is a very simple way to say they don't have solutions. They don't have a solution for you. They're working out as they go along. Design or evolution, a little bit of both, because we don't know what the fuck we're doing. We're just going to push you in here and hope something comes from it. And the creativity brings solutions. Yes, it does. And of course, underneath there, they got 3-dimensional transportation. Consider all urban systems 3-dimensional transportation. So they're saying underground, overground, wobbling free up in the sky. You'll have all of these different versions. Is air an option? Is where that comes into, with this little spacecraft that flies around. And 3-dimensional transportation, well, they talk about this a little bit as well. This is kind of connected with competitiveness. So competitiveness is the last part of this terribly horrific megacity slides. So we've been through a lot of it, and you can see it would take a much longer, this would probably be a whole morning of talking, just this one slide to get through if you were in a proper training meeting. I'm trying to go through it kind of ad hoc. I prepared like a slight bit, but really I am going through it ad hoc. I'm just I'm hoping that it's been enlightening to you in some way. It makes you ask questions, makes you think about things. Maybe you'll have to watch it a couple of times to be able to understand what is happening here. But it's really important to understand through their perspective, through their vision of the future, what our future looks like if they are in control. We need to understand this. So competitiveness. Developing countries. Well, is that developing countries or is that developing city-states? You know, they talk about that over here with the governors. A city-state is what they lead on to. So competitiveness. Of course, the developing countries aren't going to necessarily have amazing megacities from the off as well. And so that's what they want to do. They want to say, oh, look at how amazing these megacities are, where you've got everything and people fly around. You could have that in the developing countries. All you got to do is give up all of your lands, stop being custodian of the land, stop having your life that you're used to, stop having your traditions and your culture, and get stuck into this and all be worker bees, worker ants for the elite, because that's what this is. These are jails. They're working jails for the elites, so that they can live out there in the rural environments, have all the beauty of nature, and we don't get any of it. Work out what they're doing here. They're pushing you into a jail cell, pushing you into a technological jail cell where they can experiment on you and where you want, and where your reality is what you know and what is around you, and what you don't know isn't there anymore. And a couple of generations down the line, they know that no one will know what's outside the walls. No one will know what's outside the walls of their environment, and they'll be so used to this schizophrenic environment that it will be nature that turns people into madness. I know that sounds hard to believe, but it's the way the mind works. So, developing countries, urbanization, they put in there, global growth. What does it mean? Well, global growth, they want to limit that growth, don't they? They want limits to growth, as the Club of Rome very eloquently put it. They want limits to it. And what does that mean, global growth? Well, it means that they want to stick you all in mega cities. Yeah. And urbanization is the future, not the past. So how to add value for everybody. And next to it over here, they got incentivize growth fiscally. So, we bring you into this city, into this mega city, and you'll have look, you'll be given, like in China, you'll be given this, but look, you've got a house, you got a flat, you got this area. Get used to living there. Eventually it'll be taken off you and you'll own nothing and be happy. But until then, you've got something for free, haven't you? You don't have to live in your shack in the middle of the country and be cold in the winter, do you? No. And we don't have to supply you with loads of different things. No, we can just make it really, really organized so that we can give you the dregs, and you don't know what you don't know again. So how to add value for everybody? Give them a little bit of money first and then slowly make them share everything. That's what it sounds like to me. And here you go, with urbanization and competitiveness, narrow. This is attached to three-dimensional transport as well. The firm collective unit. So what is this? Complex. So narrow is the firm, complex is a collective unit. So together, us working together is complex, and us being ruled by the firm, I suppose, by the people up top, is a narrow idea, and somewhere in between there is the real answer. And here we go, maximizing economic freedom. So economic freedom for who again? Economic freedom for who? You won't have economic freedom because you'll own nothing. So how will you have maximized economic freedom? You won't. They're talking about them. They're talking about business. They're talking about enterprise. They're talking about their wealth collection, their wealth gathering. The Pareto distribution means that all of the wealth is now up top. And what do you have? Nothing. You own nothing. You have to be happy. We've maximized our economic freedom. The stakeholders in society, the real stakeholders, they've got it. And they say underneath, it doesn't guarantee growth. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And especially not when you're trying to limit the growth. And you do that by whatever manipulation you think. Can you imagine what a pandemic would look like, city to city? You'd have mega cities, you'd have mega city news. So you've got all your news coming to you controlled in your one city. You might not even see the same news that's out in another city. You might not even experience a pandemic. The next city along might not even be communicating with you anymore. And that's something you're going to have to get used to. Lack of communication between megacities and them being separate rocks, their own little rocks. Are urbanization and megacities the same thing? Now, the answer to that is simply no. Like I said earlier, Cardiff is 400,000 people. It's classed as an urban area. The urbanization of those areas mean that people live in those areas. Is that the same as a megacity? No, of course it's not. So urbanization isn't necessarily megacities. Megacities are when urbanization goes out of control. In my opinion, in the opinion of nearly any free-thinking, sensible person, that's what we know. So the collective unit, maximizing economic freedom, they got a hand underneath here, and it goes to people opportunities. How much is really left in the city of opportunities, of money, of all of these different things? How much is actually really left in the city? Well, probably not much, because it all goes up, and the people who will rule this, they won't live in the cities, you idiots. The people who rule over these mayors who think they're in charge of the cities, these people who think they're in charge of the city states and are kept busy all of the time because there's loads of problems all over the place. You won't live in the cities, you schmucks. You've been run roughshod. You ain't got no opportunities. They have taken all your stuff. You got to be happy now. So, how much will be left in the city? Well, just the humans, the workers who will be doing all of the digital needs for this new tech future that these other guys want to create, and they will only get the resources that they're allowed, and they won't own their houses, and they won't own their goods. You know, that is insane. It doesn't make any sense for me. You'll be people walking around with suitcases all of the time. How do we change style addictions? Isn't that a nice way to put? How do we stop people enjoying the fact that they live comfortable lives in smaller urban communities or rural communities? How do we change style addictions? I'm used to having my car and driving myself. No, you can't do that anymore. But I want to. You know, that's an addiction. It's a style addiction. You're addicted to that style of living. Okay, well, I want to be able to choose what food I eat. No, you've only got a certain selection of stuff that you can have. But I don't want that. Yeah, well, you've got an addiction, haven't you? Addiction to the things that we don't want to give you to. Suddenly, addiction becomes about what they're willing and not willing to supply you with anymore. They can call you an addict for wanting it or needing it or believing that it's part of your life because you enjoy it. No, you own nothing and you're happy now, aren't you? No, am I? Shut up. That's basically what it'll lead to. So people opportunity and urban policy, and urban policies are completely different from rural policies, of course, because people will have different problems in the city, and they often won't be happy. So up here we got by where we covered with the do we need Megacities, do we have technology? City, a prototyping environment. Now that's interesting, isn't it? Prototype your environment. Like I say, the game is not finished, but you've got to live there. The city is not finished. The idea, the infrastructure, how it'll work is not. You've got to live there, and you're going to be happy. But it doesn't make any sense. Shut up. It's a prototyping environment. That's what we live in now because you wrecked the world outside. You wrecked all of the water supply. You put too much carbon in the air. You did all of these things, didn't you? No, it was your companies who weren't being very efficient or very careful with how you did things. No. Let's get back to your prototype environment and shut up. You're living a new life. This is a new thing, and you should be happy. You should be grateful. You own nothing. You should be grateful about owning nothing. And we're coming up to the last couple now. So city, and they got active written down there. They just put active. So which I find interesting. And there you go. People's opportunities. How much is really left in city? How to be inclusive as we grow. So after all of the rest, which is basically like, you have to do this and you have to do that and you have to do the other. How do we be inclusive? What? Inclusive in which way? You can't be. Again, how to be inclusive as we grow is a question that they're asking as they go along, as they've already built it. Because they don't know that it's a prototyping environment. How do we be inclusive? What's interesting is that doesn't even have a question mark. It has 3 dots. They're not asking you these things. They're not asking you because they don't really care. That's something stuck in case someone like me comes across and they can be like, at least we got a bit of thought about inclusiveness. It's not true. And how to be part of the process. I suppose part of the process means how to be part of the process. Well, they'll give you a fake type of politics. They'll give you a fake type of mayor and a fake type of ruler, and you're going to have to accept that as your part of the process. You can vote from. How? Well, the stakeholders can vote. Oh, what can we vote on? These 2 options that we give you, but they're the same options. Yeah. So nothing really changes but the shoes in that respect, isn't it? Because that's what we got now, where you get 2 parties and you got to accept it. They already have prototyped systems are completely and utterly controlled and coerced political systems that we currently have now, are manipulated systems. They're already been carefully designed so that they'll fit into this paradigm of megacities.
I don't feel different now that I'm older. I don't feel different now, I got my old school coming back, yeah. I don't feel angry, I'm just bored, oh yeah. I don't feel different now, I got my old school coming. Tell me what you need, what you want from life, and I won't, oh God alive, I won't judge. Tell me what'll quench your thirst tonight, and I'll make my bar to 10, yeah. Tell me what you need, what you want from life, and I won't, oh God alive, I won't judge. Tell me what'll quench your thirst tonight, and I'll make my bar to 10. I don't feel different, I'm just bolder. I don't feel different now, I got my old school coming back, yeah. I don't feel angry, I'm just bored of this shit, oh yeah. I don't feel different now, I got my old school coming. It's coming. Tell me what you need, what you want from life.